Hello lovely people, and thank you for watching tonight or catching up watching on my YouTube channel or as a podcast. So we're now well and truly in the middle of summer. It's the 20th of July 2021 as I'm recording this, and we are in the middle of the most intense heat wave, which I'm not complaining about, although I must admit it does get a little bit hard to sleep at night. And I thought I'd talk tonight about hay fever. I'm very aware that for some people, hay fever symptoms seem to be particularly bad this year. And I know that hay fever is a big problem. Approximately 25% of the UK population now suffers with hay fever to one degree or another. And for some people, it can really, really make life quite miserable. And I have read reports that, and I'm hearing from clients that actually their hay fever symptoms are much worse. And one potential reason for that is the fact that with all the lockdowns we've had, our actual immune tolerance is potentially not as great as it was before. We are aware that with regards to immunity, we may be more susceptible to things going forward. So it may be one of the reasons why hay fever may be a bit bad. Of course, it could be that we've gone from it being very wet and cold and suddenly we've got hot weather. But I thought tonight I'd cover some of the information around hay fever and some of the tips I will give to some of my clients to help manage hay fever symptoms. And it might be things that you've probably not even thought of before. And each one of these, I like to think of these as not one thing that's going to make an almighty difference, but if you try and incorporate all of these in, just adding just small changes along the way can all help to make a difference. So the very first thing I want to talk about is inflammation, because it's inflammation that creates the real build-up of symptoms and tightness and the swelling in the airways that can be really, really difficult for hay fever sufferers. Now, we've got this inflammatory response that's taking place, but what you may not be aware of is the ways that we can help the body to kick in anti-inflammatory messengers, anti-inflammatory mediators, anti-inflammatory compounds that are trying to tell the body not to be inflamed. Now, there's a couple of lovely plant herbal compounds. You can get these in supplement forms, but why not look to include these in your diet? And I'm talking specifically here about ginger and turmeric. And in turmeric, it's the active ingredient called curcumin, or has different names, curcumin, that is the active ingredient that is anti-inflammatory, and these can help to inhibit the inflammatory response that is taking place in the respiratory airways that gives rise to the uncomfortable symptoms. So ways, as I said, you can have this in supplement form, but you can look to just include these in your diet. I love to start the day with some grated ginger in hot water and lemon. Of course, it doesn't have to be hot water. You could just be grating ginger with lemon, and particularly when it's so hot, you could have it in a nice cooling drink, maybe add some ice to it. I love to add ginger to a smoothie that I'm making. So when I've got a smoothie, then I add ginger to that. So that's another way to add ginger, as a really lovely zing to your juices, your smoothies, your morning drink. Or indeed adding ginger to a stir fry is an absolutely lovely way. Anyway, you can add ginger in so many different ways into your foods, into your vegetables and into your fruit. It goes with so many different things. And then with turmeric, some of you may have heard of a thing called golden milk. Now, this is very much known as a warming drink, but why not think about having it cold? And what golden milk is, I like to make this with a nut milk, like almond milk. What you often do with this is you would warm the drink with some turmeric. You might stir that into a little bit of, say, coconut oil with a little bit of black pepper. The reason being for adding these is it helps to enhance the absorption of the curcumin and into the bloodstream from the gut, because the uptake can be quite poor. What you can do is when you've made this hot drink, you can allow it to cool. Again, you could add ice and have that as a cooling drink with the turmeric in. So it's a great way to get turmeric. But if you love cooking with turmeric and you love spicy foods and you love your curries, then why not try cooking with more turmeric? Always add it into, say, the olive oil and the fats, because of the absorption enhancement that you're going to get from it that way. Now, there is such a thing as an anti-inflammatory diet and a pro-inflammatory diet. So you want to be reducing your pro-inflammatory foods. These are your sugars, your processed foods, your white grains, your white refined grains that actually are high therefore in sugars. You want to reduce those. You want to reduce your teas, your coffees and your alcohol. So you want to be reducing those because that's creating more of a pro-inflammatory diet. Also your seed oils. We shouldn't really be using vegetable oils and sunflower seed oils to be cooking with because they give off compounds that can become pro-inflammatory. But what you do want to be doing is reducing those in your diets, having a really plentiful vegetable diet, and I'll come back to vegetables in a moment, lots of whole foods, whole grains, brown rice, and always make sure that you are aiming to get 3 portions of oily fish. The fabulous fats in those oily fish go down pathways that create anti-inflammatory messengers in the body. So when you're with a hay fever and your body is trying to say inflame and have those inflamed airways, if you start adding in more oily fish into the diet, it's going to help create anti-inflammatory compounds that will sort of be telling the body not to be so inflamed. So that, can you see how we can start to address the balance and get a better balance in the diet there? Now, histamine. Histamine is one of the main causes of some of those symptoms that create the itchy nose and the runny and streamy eyes and the excess mucus production. It's the histamine that's produced from mast cells that's created in response to this sort of telling the body that it's got this reaction to pollen and that's a threat, and it starts to give out this excess histamine that gives those symptoms. The body will produce histamine, all our bodies produce histamine, but it's when it goes into overdrive that we have the problem. So we want to do whatever we can to reduce the release of histamine from those mast cells. So what can we do about this? Well, going back to the vegetables, we really need a diet that's rich in our vegetables, as many different colours and varieties as you can get into your diet. And in an ideal world, we'll be eating 10 portions of vegetables a day. It's what our ancestors did and what we should be aiming to do for an overall healthy diet anyway. And I know it's difficult to achieve that. But another way of looking at this is to say in a week, can you incorporate 30 different plant foods into your diet? And I've done a challenge on this before that I'm thinking of repeating, to get 30 different plant foods into your diet into a week. It's great fun to do. And when you start adding it up, you'll be amazed because it does include things like your herbs and your nuts and seeds as well. Now, some of these vegetable foods are going to be rich in vitamin C. And vitamin C is great at helping to excrete excess histamine out of the body via the kidneys, and that's what we want to do. We want to stop this histamine lingering around the body and giving rise to those awful symptoms associated with hay fever. So where do we find vitamin C rich foods? We always think of oranges, but it's not our best source. We want to have a diet that's very rich in dark green leafy vegetables, in peppers, with kiwi fruit. Those are going to be your best sources, and berries as well. So aim to up your intake, get some of those into your diet every single day because they're fabulous sources of vitamin C. And another nutrient that's very good at helping to control histamine release is magnesium. And research has shown that actually if we're deficient in magnesium, it may actually create a greater release of histamine. So we do want to make sure we've got plenty of magnesium in our diets. And magnesium is going to come from those dark green leafy vegetables again. It's going to come from whole grains like brown rice and from nuts and seeds. So do make sure you're getting good portions of those every single day into your diet. It's also important to stay well hydrated. Dehydration can lead to an over-release of histamine from mast cells. So it's easier when it's hot weather, but sometimes when it's not so hot but pollen is high, you can forget to drink and keep staying well hydrated. Of course, I don't mean your teas and coffees. I mean water and herbal and fruit teas to stay well hydrated, aiming for about 2 litres of those hydrating fluids every single day. Now, histamine-rich foods, it's going to vary from person to person, but the sort of foods that can be very high in histamine are cheeses, particularly your more mature cheeses, your fermented foods. So whilst fermented foods can be great for gut bacteria, they may not be so great when you're in the middle of the hay fever season. They may not be good for you. Soy sauce, sausages, alcohol, coffee, seafood, and chocolate. So sorry, chocolate lovers, may not be so great. Now, they're not always the same for every single person. You'll all have your own trigger points, but go away and just to have another look at your diet to see if you've got too many of those foods in your diet. Now, the final point I want to cover with regards to foods is around mucus forming foods. As a naturopath, I have always looked at people's diets to see if they are high in mucus forming foods, if they are showing signs of symptoms of having excess mucus congestion. Now, if you've got hay fever, you will be having excess mucus congestion, excess mucus being produced in those airways that starts to create some of those uncomfortable symptoms that you're experiencing. And now some people are more susceptible to enhanced mucus production and mucus congestion. So it's a really good idea, again, to go away and look at your diet. Have a look at how many mucus forming foods are in your diet. And these foods are dairy, particularly cow's dairy, so cheeses and milks and yogurts and ice cream. And don't forget, if you're including things like your probiotic drinks, which are made of dairy, you're going to need to have another look at those as well. Starches, particularly bananas, yeah, even bananas, potatoes, parsnips are very, very starchy types of vegetables and fruit. And grains, particularly your white refined grains, which I've mentioned we shouldn't really be having in the diet because they can be more pro-inflammatory. So your grains, a little bit of brown rice is fine, but you don't want to have too many of your pastas and breads in your diet because they can give rise to an increase in mucus and mucus congestion, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. We need to keep this mucus sort of flushing through the system. Other things that we want to think about with regards to trying to reduce mucus foods are try quinoa in place of pasta and in place of potatoes. Try coconut yogurt. Coconut yogurt is a lovely thing to be eating in place of normal yogurt. I think it's got a fabulous taste and it's not really sweet, but it's a lovely, lovely taste. Oat cakes, yes, I know oats are still a grain, but oats can be much, much better than, as I said, the breads and the white grains and the breads. You don't want to have a lot of that and the pastas in your diet. So a little bit of oat cakes could be better. And look at using nut milks in replace of normal dairy milk. So you may find you like them in teas and coffees, although I have already said don't drink too many of them. But if you're having any cereal, think about having nut milks because almond milk can be really lovely, or in a smoothie, nut milks like almond milk, cashew milk. They're really lovely additions to things like smoothies. They're going to give you a little bit of protein in there as well. Now, the final thing I just want to cover is not about food, but it's about vitamin D, because vitamin D is really, really important with regards to our immunity and with regards to immune tolerance. So going back to the mast cells going into overdrive and the body overly responding to pollens, which it sees as a threat, is where your immune system's going into overdrive. So vitamin D status can help to address that balance and try and bring the body back into a better immune moderation, immune balance, immune tolerance. Now, of course, we get the vitamin D from our sunshine. So you may think at the moment you're outside, you may be picking up more vitamin D from the sun, although you do need to make sure you've got your skin exposed without suntan lotion on to absorb the vitamin D from the sunshine. But actually, the NHS guidelines are telling us now that we should be supplementing with vitamin D all year round, and we need to be supplementing 1000 IU vitamin D3 to really optimize our vitamin D uptake and to keep it at an optimized level all year round. We get very little vitamin D from our fat-soluble foods like butter and eggs and some in oily fish as well. We really, really, really need to reach out and get it from the sunshine, but because we don't get a lot of sunshine in the UK, it's why we need to supplement, and it's so important that we do so because it's a crucial aspect to maintaining our overall health, but in this instance to try and help to create this better balance with hay fever and an overproduction of histamine, this immune system going into overdrive. So just think the light has changed a little bit as I've been recording this. Hope you found that useful tonight. Thank you so much for listening. For those listening live, I may record a live on a different day next week. I missed it last Tuesday because it was my daughter's 21st birthday, so a bit of a big celebration going on here. And next Tuesday is actually one of my daughter's graduation, so another really big important day in our household. So I might well record a live on Monday night, but I will keep you posted in the group about when I'm going to do that. But you can always catch up with these in my YouTube channel, Peyton Principles, Natural Health, and my podcasts, which are on my website, which is Peyton Principles. Thanks so much. Enjoy the great weather, provided you're not overheating. And if you've got holidays planned or you're away on holiday, hope you're having a fab time, having some downtime, and look forward to catching up with you soon. Bye.